And we'll do it live. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. We're doing it live. We're doing it live. No Bill O'Reilly impersonations today. But check it out. So the topic of today's video is it wrong to celebrate the death of Rob Reiner? Is it wrong to celebrate the death of Rob Reiner? Donald Trump is celebrating the death of Rob Reiner. Am I a Donald Trump fan? I'm not a fan. I voted for him 3 times, but I'm not a fan. I thought I was really a fan at first, and I'm not anymore. I'm not a Donald Trump fan. I criticize Donald Trump daily. I'm very disappointed with Donald Trump as a human being, as a president. I think he's kind of done a lousy job. He's also old, so it might just be that he's old now, because he got old pretty quick. Maybe after he took the vaccine, it did something to his brain, because he's not really the same person anymore. I also don't believe he was shot in the ear. I think that was fake. So I'm not a Donald Trump fan, by the way. I voted for Donald Trump. I was part of the group on the Daily Stormer that pushed Donald Trump into the spotlight in the beginning. We were just anonymous people on the internet, but we're all working together. But I'm not a fan of Donald Trump anymore. But I'm even less of a fan of Rob Reiner, I think. I really don't even know that much about Rob Reiner, although the only thing I know about Rob Reiner is living in California. Rob Reiner worked against the people of California and worked against the voters of California on behalf of a clique, what you call a clique, C-L-I-Q-U-E, a clique of perverts. And that's what Rob Reiner was part of. He was part of a clique. So I'm not really a huge Donald Trump fan, even though I voted for him. And I don't really know all that much about Rob Reiner, other than he backed political movements that destroyed California, that ruined California. California sucks, dude. California was, you got to see, I'm comparing, when you think California sucks, I think California is great. Well, the thing is, I'm comparing California of the 1970s, which is what I was born, compared to California now. It's not even remotely the same place. It's horrible. It's like, maybe it's a dream if, maybe you think it's a dream if you're from some shitty country and you come to California, you think, wow, California is amazing. Well, it's not really. It was amazing. It was amazing in the 70s. It was amazing in the 60s. It was amazing in the 50s and the 40s, in the 30s and the 20s. It was amazing in the 1800s. It's not amazing now. The culture in California is trash. And the culture is trash because of people like Rob Reiner. Rob Reiner backed policies that destroyed the culture, the people of California. And he did it on behalf of a clique. And a clique is like a cult. It's a small cult. It's a small but powerful cult. They call it a clique, C-L-I-Q-U-E. And that clique is the Hollywood Jewish mafia pervert clique. They're hardcore into perverted sex, and a lot of them are Jews. So it's Jews and perverts that are running Brentwood and West Los Angeles and Hollywood. And so the big thing that Rob Reiner pushed was pushing. For some reason he was obsessed, or he was paid by people to push homosexuality to children and toddlers, and gay men adopting toddlers and babies. That was his big thing. That was his big political movement. That and abortion. So killing babies in the womb, or if they come out of the womb, selling them, trafficking them to homosexual men. Okay, that was Rob Reiner's big thing. That was his big political movement. So now I'm watching people talk about Rob Reiner on YouTube, like Sammy the Bull Gravano. I like Sammy the Bull, right? I mean, he killed people and he was probably did a lot of crime, and I'm not a criminal, and I don't really particularly like criminals, but I still like Sammy the Bull. Okay, I just like him. I like his stories. He did live an interesting life. And so he's talking about oh yeah, this is the video I just watched. The Paul Castellano hit. That was 40 years ago today, I guess, or yesterday. I don't know.
The family problems. We did an off the record hit.
Hold
There's
on a
no
second.
way I would have talked to Chin. He was the boss of another family.
So Sammy the Bull starts out his show, and he's talking about Rob Reiner.
The Albertsons app?
Because now Sammy the Bull is doing all this work with people in Hollywood, right? So he's like, oh, I got to say something nice about Rob Reiner. Maybe he likes Rob Reiner, right?
This was just the beginning.
Let's see what he
Couple
says.
times
He will be closed.
he says, Sammy, you could break up and we can go with Alameda. Let's go right to the questions and let's get going.
Listen to this.
Well, there was a tragic event that happened this weekend. Rob Reiner and his wife were killed.
Yeah. I'm dealing with a lot of people in Hollywood, friends of mine. Nick Pileggi was very close friends with him. And they all got in touch with me and they told me about it, and they were all disturbed about it. I watched it on TV. And I mean, there's no words for something like that. A young boy, guy killing his father and his mother. I don't care what his problems were. I don't know any words to explain that. It's horrible. The first show when I got out of prison, I was actually working with Rob Reiner, and we were going to produce a show. It didn't work out, but he was a good guy.
Okay, so Rob Reiner's a good guy. He didn't deserve to be killed by his son, who had a lot of problems, and so Sammy Bull says, I don't care what his problems were, blah 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 blah. Okay, but let me ask you the question, right, Sammy? I'm putting this question to Sammy the Bull. If you were in prison, okay, you're in a supermax prison with the Aryan Brotherhood, which was the guys that you were hanging out with, right? You're in a supermax prison with the Aryan Brotherhood, and Rob Reiner shows up, and he starts talking about. He's in your cell, right? Every day. Rob Reiner's in your cell. You're in a supermax prison with the Aryan Brotherhood. And Rob Reiner's in your cell. And he's saying, I was backed by these Jews and they paid me to promote abortion. We're gonna get the abortion age raised to, right at the time of birth, and we're gonna get and I'm pushing for gay adoption, and we're gonna get homosexual men. They can buy the baby as it comes out of the womb. Okay. So tell me again. You're in a supermax prison, Sammy the Bull, and Rob Reiner's in there. You're in there with the Aryan Brotherhood, and Rob Reiner's in your cell, and he's just going on and on about killing babies, and he's going on and on about trafficking newborn babies that are coming out of the womb and being handed off to homosexual men that just bought a baby. What do you think's going to happen to Rob Reiner if he's in prison saying all the same stuff that he says in Brentwood or that he says in Hollywood on a stage sponsored by billionaires, by Jewish billionaires? What would happen to Rob Reiner if he was saying all those same things in a supermax prison surrounded by the Aryan Brotherhood or the Mexican Mafia or the Nazi lowriders or some other prison gang that I'm sure Sammy the Bull was around and knew those guys? What would happen to Rob Reiner in that situation? What would happen to Rob Reiner in a supermax prison if he started going on about gay men adopting babies? Now, I was on Facebook. I lost a Facebook friend because I brought this up. And she was a nice girl. She was a Canadian girl. Married lady, nice married gal. And she was really into the 9/11 truth stuff. She was my friend on Facebook. And I started telling people, I go, look, Rob Reiner pushed, first of all, in California, they had a vote about gay marriage. And you got to understand, when it comes to that stuff, I mean, for me, I don't want to debate people about their sexual problems or whatever, right? It's not I'm not interested in it. It's not a subject I'm terribly interested in until it affects me or children or the society as a whole, right? I'm not terribly interested in mental illnesses with regard to sexual perversions. And I'm not just picking on homosexuals, because there's a lot of people that do different types of perversions. Okay. Sleeping with your sister would be, in my opinion, you shouldn't do that. A brother shouldn't sleep with their sister, or a sister with their brother, or even close cousins might be off limits, or, you know what I mean? Like, there's different things. It's not just the LGBT thing. There's, like, when it comes to sex, it's a very important part of life that you don't want to mix that up the wrong way. Okay. That's my view. So I'm not just picking on homosexuals, but when it comes to homosexuals lobbying the government so that they can get babies or adopt teenage boys, or, you know, because that's what goes on. That's what's going on in America. And you've got Rob Reiner as the face of this at this group called the Human Rights Campaign, which is totally run by gay men that like to mess with children. Now, do they actually sexually molest the children? I don't know. Maybe not in all cases. But why do they? But you got to understand something. No adult man wants to talk. I don't even want to go there. It's too weird, bro. So here's what I'm saying. If Rob Reiner was in the Supermax prison with Sammy the Bull, and he's going on and on about how he supports abortion and up to the 9th month, and we need to get the kids in the preschools when they're 3 years old, and then we got to tell them about LGBT, and we talk about their genitalia, and we got homosexuals come in and spend time with the 3-year-olds and the 5-year-olds and the 6-year-olds and the 8-year-olds. If Rob Reiner was going on about that in a Supermax prison with Aryan Brotherhood and the Nazi lowriders and the Mexican mafia, Sammy, what would happen to Rob Reiner? You tell me. What would happen to Rob Reiner in that situation? I can't imagine that I can't imagine that they would let that slide, dude. So why is it okay if he does that in Brentwood, but it's wrong if he does that if he's your cellmate, Sammy? Would you sit and listen to that? Would you sit and listen to that if you were in a cell with Rob Reiner in a Supermax prison? Would you sit and listen to Rob Reiner go on and on and on about the things that he promoted in real life, which is killing babies or trafficking them to homosexual men? Would you listen to that? Would you let that slide? I'm asking. Sammy the Bull, would you let that slide if you're in prison? Could you? I don't know. That's my question. You said he's a good guy. Let's listen to this again.
I never knew the wife or the son, I think he has a daughter as well. Horrible thing for that family. Hope he
True.
rests in peace.
Vinny, his company.
Let's listen to it
About
again.
I watched it on TV, and I mean, there's no words for something like that. A young boy, guy killing his father, and
Well, to be honest, his son was no longer a young boy. I think his son was probably in his 40s. So his son was in his 40s. His son had a history of drug addiction and mental illness, and yeah, and but let's listen to more of the Sammy the Bull.
his mother. I don't care what his problems were.
Okay, well that's not a fair answer. You can't say that you don't care what his problems were. And I don't know what the kid's problems were either. I know he had a drug problem. I know that he was on a lot of mental health drugs at different times, whatever. He had some serious problem, okay? And that problem resulted in violence toward his mother and his father. That's intense, dude. That the child literally murdered his mother and his father. And to say that to say that it doesn't matter what his problems were, well, we don't know what the problems were. And I don't even want to speculate on what the problems were. But there are things that a mother and a father could do to cause that to be Not justified, but understood. Not justified, but understood. I couldn't do that to my mother or father. I could have, I should have actually, when my father was in his 40s and he was old enough, I should have actually punched my father in the face for divorcing my mother. I should have done that when he was still young. I didn't even realize it until I didn't realize how bad my father destroyed the family until I was watching my mother die. When I watched my mother die, it hit me. All the things that he did to her, it all came to me at that point. But by that time, he was too old, so I just let it go. I never even talked to him about it, like how it made me feel, what he actually did. And then I went back and I looked at my whole life, and I went, "Wow, he really trashed the family." So there are things that parents can do to make that are upsetting. I would never do that to my father or my mother. I think if he was young enough, and when I was in my, let's say, 20s and he was in his 40s and he could defend himself, maybe I could have thrown a punch at him. That may have been something that would have been acceptable level of violence for what he did to my mother. But I didn't. I was always the guy trying to get along. I was trying, hey, let's all get along. Let's all be friends. I try to keep everything. I was the guy trying to make everything. Hey, let's all get along here. Let's all be good roads, good weather. That was a mistake on my part. But what this kid did, this guy, he's not even a kid. Rob Reiner's son, Nick. He had some real serious problems, and I don't know what happened to him. But you're dealing with these the people, you got to understand something. Rob Reiner and that whole group of people he's associated with in Hollywood are totally satanic, degenerate, filthy, disgusting people. They are the worst people in the world. They are the most degenerate people in the world. Next to maybe some of the people you might find in a supermax prison that are hardcore criminals. But the people in Hollywood, the people that Rob Reiner worked for, they were hardcore criminals. They just weren't in prison. They're hardcore criminals that have so much power that they can live on the outside and continue to carry out these crimes, like that Harvey Weinstein guy and the Jeffrey Epstein network and all these other total degenerates, total, complete degenerate filth. Rob Reiner was part of that. So we don't know what happened to his son. I don't know what happened to his son. I don't know why his son was like that. Don't know why his son was like that. But anyway, let's go to what Donald Trump said about him. What did Donald Trump say about Rob Reiner? Something really got a lot of people upset. And I'm not a big Trump fan. I did vote for Trump every time that he ran. I did vote for him. But the last time I voted for him was the last time I thought, what happened to Trump? He was already getting weird, dude. When he did the fake shooting in his ear, I don't even believe he got shot in the ear. I don't believe Donald Trump got shot in the ear. So I'm not some Trump fanatic that's like in love with Donald Trump. But let's see what he said about Rob Reiner. What did he say about Rob Reiner? Truth Post. I think it was kind of, a lot of people thought it was offensive. I thought it was kind of funny because it was Donald Trump's, it was like Donald Trump's, what do you call it? Sense of humor. But a lot of people thought it was over the top. See if I can read part of it here. I'm going to try and find it on the internet. Trump says, here's a Fox News report from Fox Los Angeles. Trump says Rob Reiner died of Trump derangement syndrome. I have to get off this. It's going to screw up my computer. Hope it doesn't mess up my computer. Donald Trump condemned for his comments, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to condemn him. It's like, okay, look. So You know, a lot of people. Oh, here's another one. That's x.com. I can't read that because I can't go on X. Stupid. Anyway, a lot of people say, okay, here's one. KTLA, Facebook. I'll do this Facebook one. Maybe I can read this. It says Trump didn't write that nasty suit. His White House did. Whatever. Let's see what it says. It says Donald Trump. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away, together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. Okay, that's. I'm sorry. You're not going to think that's funny if you're somebody who likes Rob Reiner, but that's Trump's sense of humor, and I can't help to find that amusing. And it's not just because Rob Reiner promoted abortion and messing with little kids with gay shit, with homosexual gay propaganda for like 3-year-olds. That's not exactly why. And he pushed that on us. Like, I live in California. We didn't vote for that, and our votes were overturned by Rob Reiner to force that on us. And like I said, if Rob Reiner was in prison at a supermax prison with Sammy the Bull Gravano and the Aryan Brotherhood, and Rob Reiner was in the cell going, gay kids and toddlers, and talk to them about their genitals, and you know what I mean? And Rob Reiner's just running his mouth about all that. What would the Aryan Brotherhood do to Rob Reiner in a cell? Would they let him just keep going on like that? That's my question. I don't know. I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can do that in prison. I don't think you can, dude. I've never been to prison. I was in Orange County Jail a couple times, like for like a couple hours. I've never been convicted of a crime other than a misdemeanor for like traffic violation. That's it. So I have no felonies. I have one misdemeanor that I had when I was 18. Traffic stop. Policeman took me to the Orange County Jail. I've been arrested for a couple other things. I got arrested like on a gun charge for threatening to kill a crackhead who was abusing a woman. I threatened. I don't want to say what I did. Well, let's just say I didn't stay in there. I was just there for like a few hours. They let me out, and then the case got dropped. But what I'm saying is, just being around that shit for like a short amount of time, you cannot have any fucking bad shit going on with little kids, dude. You will get fucked up in prison. So if you're telling me that Rob Reiner, if he was in a supermax prison, talking about killing babies and gay stuff with babies and toddlers and trafficking babies to homosexual men, and we're going to make this the law in California. You're telling me they're just going to let him keep talking about that? I don't think so. That's the difference between being in Brentwood and being in prison. Being in Brentwood or being in county jail. Being in Brentwood or being in a state prison. There's something very different. So this idea that Rob Reiner was able to run his mouth like that about babies and trafficking kids. You understand, Rob Reiner worked for a Jewish billionaire club that forces laws on everybody else so that they can have gay relationships with babies and teenagers. That's a fact. I'm not making that up. Here's what I do on this show. I look at what people are doing and then I state it and then I go, hey, this is what's happening. That's all. And I don't want to get into debate about LGBT stuff because I don't debate that. It's not something I debate. I have an opinion about it. And if your opinion is different, that's whatever. It's just, but I'm not going to support a government that makes that the law, though. You see what I mean? So if you win the debate and then you make that the law, then I no longer support the government. And so now it's your government, it's not mine, and I don't support it. That's my whole position. That's it. And then I try it, and then I convince people, let's make a different government. So I'm not actually trying to like change your mind on it. I'm not. But that's what Rob Reiner was a big supporter of. And it's for me, like the gay marriage stuff, like I'm against gay marriage, right? Because I think marriage is literally a holy sacrament. I believe it's literally a religious sacrament, but it's like it has to do with God. It has to do with the image of God. It has to do with male and female. It has to do with it's not just it has to do with the design of the universe. Like the universe is designed with male and female, with positive and negative. That's like the whole system of chemistry and electricity and the whole design of the universe. So I think it's literally a divine institution, marriage. And so, but I mean, I wouldn't make it legal. I'm not saying we should like kill people just for being whatever, being a pervert. I don't think you should be killed for being a pervert. Okay? I don't. Absolutely not. I think you should grow up and be mature and not do that, but I don't think you should be killed for it. But Rob Reiner promoted that. That was his political ideology. Okay? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So it says here, it says, his incurable, this is what Donald Trump said, an incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of Donald Trump. See, it is funny, dude. It's Donald Trump's sense of humor. But this is not why Nick Reiner killed his father and mother. I have a little more sympathy for the mother, but how did they get their son into this frame of mind? That's an interesting question. Because he was living with them his whole life, and finally he killed them. That's weird. It's a weird thing to do. It says here, now, who do you think put Nick Reiner into the hands of? Well, Nick Reiner had a drug addiction problem, and then he was homeless, and then Rob like, oh, let's make a movie about it. Okay, that's kind of weird. Rob. And then and what else? I bet you Rob like put him on all kinds of other drugs. Oh, son, let's try this Prozac or this other thing or some Xanax. And all that stuff, dude, causes weird shit. Like literally, it's part of it. He maybe just didn't know what to do. The other part of it is from my perspective as a citizen of California, why did Rob Reiner force the people of California to have gay marriage by overturning our vote and going into the courts and like, because they have billions of dollars to spend on courts to overturn our vote. Get it? That's the thing I have a problem with Rob Reiner. And so this brings me back to the question, because Sammy the Bull, I played you the clip. Sammy the Bull said that he likes Rob Reiner and Rob Reiner's a good guy. Okay. But if Rob Reiner was in a supermax prison going on and on about gay toddlers, what do you think would happen to him? What do you think? What would happen? I suspect it'd be pretty bad. I suspect it would be pretty freaking horrible what would happen to somebody that starts running their mouth about that in a supermax prison. I think it would be. Okay, what else does Donald Trump say here? It says here, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness. Donald Trump is so full of himself. Look, I wish Donald Trump was reaching greatness and all this. To me, Donald Trump has been like a dead cat bounce. That's the word. That's the phrase that comes to mind. Oh, you said you were going to do all this great stuff, and then you got into office and you didn't do shit. Actually, you just handed everything over to Larry Ellison and Barry Weiss, and I think Donald Trump actually. Honestly, I think Donald Trump gave up on America and he's just handing everything over to Jews. That's what I think Donald Trump is doing. It says here, and with the golden age of America upon us, this is ridiculous. Perhaps like never before, may Rob and Michelle rest in peace. God, that was tough, dude. That was big asshole right there. May they rest in peace after he just defames them like that. That was bad, dude. That was bad. But I don't really have a lot of sympathy for Rob. I have a little more sympathy for the wife. I didn't know her. I don't know that maybe she supported all the same shit Rob was doing, to me personally, forcing his shit culture on California. You got to understand, California used to be a really nice place, dude. It used to be a really nice place. It was fun. It was a place to go surfing and nice looking people. Now it's goblins. Now it's traffic. Now it's drug addiction. Now it's a shitty. They ruined it. And the people that ruined it are people like Rob Reiner and that whole cult of people that's up there in Brentwood and Malibu and West Hollywood. They destroyed California. They destroyed California for their little cult. They got rich doing it. And then they destroyed the culture and they turned it into this AIDS, HIV, LGBT, gay adoption culture. That's what they turned it into. Pride parades and all that stuff. And I don't want to debate that if that's what you're into. I don't debate mental illness. And I don't debate sexual perversion. And I'm not just picking on homos, because there's lots of different types of sexual deviancy. It's not just your thing, bro. It's like I said, you shouldn't marry your sister. You shouldn't marry your brother, your blood relative. Like that's, to me, that's a big no-no. So it's it's not like I'm picking on one thing. It's just that to me, sex is like the union of male and female is like a sacred thing. And to those of us that enjoy it, it is sacred. It is important. It's something that should be protected, not turned into something ugly, which is what Rob Reiner forced on California. That's what these people do. That's what degenerates do. They turn something sacred and beautiful and amazing, like the union between a man and woman, and they turn it into something ugly and perverse and sick. And then they want to take 3-year-olds, because Rob Reiner was for preschool for all. Can you imagine taking a 3-year-old and dumping them off with strangers? I don't let my dog. I wouldn't see this dog right here. Let me show you. Where'd my dog go? Doggo! Come here, Pop. I wouldn't let my dog stay with a stranger. I mean, there's close friends that have watched my dog. I wouldn't let my dog stay with a stranger. I would not let my dog. I've seen what some of these people do, how they treat their animals. Even people that are into animals, they think, "Oh, I love animals." You don't love animals like I do, idiot. Stay the fuck away from my dog or I'll kill you. Just kidding. Just kidding. That was a that was metaphorically. I love my dog. Anyway, yeah. So okay. So here's the question. So some people have said that it was very unchristian for what Donald Trump said about Rob Reiner. Okay, but I think that that's not true. I don't think that's true. I don't think it was unchristian. At first glance, you would think it is unchristian. You'd say Jesus said, "Love your," that the law is love. Love. What is the line? So slow this evening. Here's why it's not unchristian. Let me read you some Isaiah. Some Isaiah 14. See, actually in Christianity, there is a tradition of ridiculing your enemies. There is a tradition of ridiculing your enemies. And you're like, but what does Isaiah have to do with Christianity? That's the Old Testament. Well, I don't want to give you a big Bible lesson, but John the Baptist, the whole prototype of Christianity is based on the life of John the Baptist. I know you don't think so because you aren't as smart as me, but John the Baptist is the prototype of the story of Jesus. Now, Jesus Christ is the light of God, the word of God that is born of a virgin and comes to John the Baptist because that's the story of John, because it's the story of John the Baptist. That's why. And John the Baptist was what John the Baptist did is he spent all of his time reading Isaiah and preaching Isaiah to his people, the Israelites of Judah, of Judea. And so what does John the Baptist say in Isaiah 14:11? What does Isaiah say, actually? Let me get the King James Version because I speak English. I like the King James Version because I'm an Englishman. Oh, so when I don't know, I was watching Nick Fuentes. Oh, Trump, he shouldn't have said that, this and that, and blah blah blah. How unchristian. Okay. Here's Isaiah 14:11 talking about the king of Babylon. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of the vials of thy vials. Oh, and the noise of thy vials, the sound of your vials, the musical instruments. So all this pomp, what does pomp mean? I'm an etymologist, so I have to actually know what I'm reading here. What does pomp actually mean? What is the etymology of pomp? Pomp refers to a show of magnificent splendor or stately display, often in formal ceremonies. So it's like, I wonder what the etymology of this word is. What does it mean etymologically? Pomp. From the Greek. Oh, it's an ancient Greek word. What does it mean in ancient Greek? It's interesting. Pomp in ancient Greek. Shoot. Peak, mountain, peak. No. Not sure what it means in ancient Greek, actually. Oh, pomp, ancient Greek, usually translated as pomp or procession, the name of the first part of several ancient Greek festivals. Okay, so it's a festival. That's why it's pomp. Pomp is the first part of several ancient Greek festivals. So you imagine a festival and it's got all of this, it's a celebration, right? And so you have all the festivities and all the decorations and all of the glamour and all the glitz and all the everybody's there. See, it's the pomp. It's the first translated as procession. Okay, so it's like a procession. Here comes a they're like a procession of, like, whether it's like a military procession or a Macy's parade on Christmas. That's the pomp. So it says in Isaiah 14:11, thy pomp is brought down to the grave. He's talking to the king of Babylon. And the sound of the vials, he says here, the noise of the vials. That's why I need to read this King James 16:11 version. It's probably better. Let's go with that one. Sorry. 16:11. Isaiah 16:11. See, this is the real King James version here. You thought I was reading the King James version. This is the real King James version. Isaiah, this is the 16:11, bro. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. You're covered in worms, bro. You're covered in worms, bro. You're covered in worms, bro. That's Christianity, right? The king of Babylon dies, and Isaiah says, enjoy your worms, bro. Enjoy your worms, enemy. That's Christianity. Did you know that? You thought it was just about loving everybody all the time, no matter how evil and sick and satanic they are. Well, you've probably been listening to the Pope if you think that, or not just the Pope. Maybe you've been listening to your favorite Christian Zionist pastor. Maybe that's what it is. You've been listening to a Christian Zionist pastor, and he says, or maybe you're listening to Nancy Pelosi. We're all children of God, every one of us, even the most satanic among us that do most evil, corrupt, horrible things. We're all wonderful people. No, you're not. No, you're not. Isaiah didn't think you were. He said, thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and thy noise of the vials. The worm is spread under thee. You're literally laying in a pile of fucking worms, bro. And the worms cover thee. You're covered in worms. You're covered in worms. You're surrounded by worms. Enjoy your fucking worms. Mr. I love abortion. Mr. Trans kids. Mr. Gay trafficking adoption to gay homosexual men. I'm not just picking on homosexuals, by the way. Remember? I'm against all forms of sexual deviancy, not just homosexuality. Everything. Everything. It has to be pure. It has to be perfect. There's an ideal. See, you've ruined the culture. Rob Reiner destroyed the culture in California. He turned California into a sewer. Rob Reiner did. Rob Reiner did. I voted for Donald Trump thinking maybe he could fix it, but he's not going to because he can't. He doesn't have the ability to. He's going to talk. He's going to make these posts and talk about how wonderful he is and how it's a golden age, and it's not. It's still falling apart. Everything's going down the tubes. But that doesn't change the fact that the people that are responsible for destroying California and much of America are people exactly like Rob Reiner, who pushed all this trash culture. Compare the culture of Rob Reiner and his satanic cult to the culture of, I don't know, Poland or Hungary or Moscow. They have a nice culture. They have nice subways. They've got nice people. Understand something. When you go, and I've never been, but I've known people that are from Ukraine before it was in a giant war caused by that Jewish guy named Zelensky and the Kagans and the whole Jewish mafia with John McCain and Lindsey Graham and Donald Trump and Joe Biden and Barack Obama, who were all shills. But before they decided to have a giant war with Russia, I knew people from that part of the world. They have a culture there. It's a culture, and it's not based on being a degenerate. See, that's what I loved about Ukraine before the war, is it wasn't a culture of degeneracy like I had here in the West. It was a culture based on their race and their history as a people. You see, that's how all of Europe has been up until recent times when it was taken over by this Rob Reiner degenerate pervert cult run by Jewish LGBT billionaires that like to force everybody to. It's like a baptism of filth. That's what I would call Rob Reiner's Hollywood culture. A baptism of diarrhea. Whereas John the Baptist was baptizing with water in repentance for your sins, and Jesus Christ, the Word of God, the spoken, Jesus Christ is not a man, by the way. It isn't in the story of Jesus Christ. He comes as a man. He's the king of Judah. He's killed at a place called Golgotha by the rabbis. They kill him. But what he represents in the story is he represents God's light, Ra, Amen Ra. You know, like in Egypt, Amen Ra, that's Jesus Christ, because it all comes from Egypt. Jesus Christ is the light of God, and that doesn't mean it's Egyptian, because it's not defined by humans, and it's not defined by the planet Earth or its history. It transcends every culture. It transcends every religion. It's God and his light. You see, that's the story of Jesus Christ, who incarnates as a man, and he's killed by the rabbis in the story. But what was I talking about? What was I talking about? I don't even remember. We're getting close to Christmas. So I'm going to have to do a Christmas special on that subject. So anyway, this is what Isaiah said. I just read that to you. And so, yeah. I'm just going to finish off with this. Rob Reiner was paid by a group of satanic perverts to promote perverted sex to children, to gay adoption of babies coming out of the mother's womb, and teens and all kids of all ages, and to promote this in the school. They have a whole curriculum. This cult, the satanic cult. It's a pervert cult, and it's a pervert cult with literally billions and billions and billions of dollars at their disposal. Larry Fink, you think of BlackRock, you think of the Soros groups, you think of the Rothschild banking empire. That's the money, that's the source of their power. They're pushing gay sex with kids. That is it. They're pushing gay sex with kids. For some reason, that's their obsession. And they want to do gay, adoption, sex, abortion, teach the kids about LGBT, teach the 3-year-old, teach the 5-year-old. So my question, which was where I started, which is what I'm going to end off with right here, is if Rob Reiner was in a supermax prison, with the Aryan Brotherhood, who Sammy the Bull says that he was with them. He didn't join them officially, but he was affiliated with them because he was like they allowed him to be part of their, part of their, protection, whatever. I don't know how he puts it, but he says Rob Reiner was a nice guy. Okay, and Sammy's a nice guy, and I'm sure the Aryan Brotherhood guys are a nice guy. They're also killers. And Rob Reiner, you could say he's a nice guy, but he also pushed some really perverted shit. Particularly, my particular problem with it is it was directed at children, also directed at marriage, which I believe is a holy sacrament, but towards children. So how is it that if Rob Reiner was in a supermax prison with Sammy the Bull Gravana, who I started this video with, he's doing this interview, he says Rob Reiner was a good guy. Okay, but if Rob Reiner was in your cell and he's running his mouth about killing babies in the 9th month of killing babies and teaching and all the 3-year-olds need to learn about what it means to be gay and all the stuff that entails, which I don't want to make a list of. It's too horrible. You think that's going to fly in prison, bro? Well, then why does it fly on the outside now that you want to make movies, Sammy the Bull? Because you want to make movies. You want to make movies. I understand you want to make movies. You want to make money for your family because you care about your family. And that's respectable. But was Rob Reiner a good guy? That's the question. Let's finish off with Sammy the Bull.
That a young boy, guy killing his father and his mother. I don't care what his problems were. I don't know.
Okay, well, what if his dad actually abused him? I'm not saying that happened with Rob Reiner, but what if his father? What if I don't know that Rob Reiner did this, but what if Rob Reiner really abused him? However, I'm not saying how he abused him, but maybe there was some serious abuse there. And that caused the mental illness, and that caused the drug addiction. And finally, he went crazy and killed Rob Reiner. You don't care?
Words to explain that. It's horrible.
It is horrible.
The first show when I got
I agree with that. It's horrible. I also think that what Rob Reiner did to my state is horrible with his pervert cult, his Jewish billionaire pervert cult pushing their pervert society on everybody through force of arms, through the police, through the courts, against our vote.
prison, I was actually working with Rob Reiner, and we were going to produce a show.
Oh,
It
wait.
didn't work out, but he was a good guy.
Okay. That's your opinion. That's your opinion. But I don't think you can see the whole picture, right? He was a good guy. Okay. I live in California and I see what Rob Reiner did to the state. I don't think he was a good guy. I think he was a horrible person. I wouldn't have done that to him, but his son would have and did.